I'm not right, and you're not wrong. We both know what this love is truly built upon. We are shadows, tiny sparrows, safe inside clear blue sky of another storm, moving in and out of time, in and out of the circle of life. We are children of the angels, keepers of the fire. We are children of the angels, reaching for the light. We are not strangers, we are all brothers. I know we came here to love each other. Here in the circle of light, each one thinks he has the answer. Each believes that she can see the way, the only way. The truth lies waiting, always waiting, like a love, a peaceful dove, right there inside your soul. From another place and time, moving into the circle of life. We are children of the angels, keepers of the fire. We are children of the angels, reaching for the light. We are not strangers, we are all brothers. I know we came here to love each other. Here in the circle of light. Here.
My name is Reverend Laura DiDonato from the Hilltop Spiritual Center. Please join me in beginning this morning's service with a positive prayer and invocation. Relaxing in this moment, I breathe the presence of Spirit. I recognize love is God, and God is this amazing life. Life is joy-filled, and this powerful Spirit is alive in us and is always creating through us through love. I am one with this loving Spirit that nurtures and supports me through these transformative times, and I speak these truths for everyone in this beautiful world. I realize that everything in my life is safe and secure. I awaken and open myself to let Spirit flow through me in making decisions through love, my health, my business, and my givingness. I do not need to understand, only to trust. As my fears and worry about what is going on, this too shall pass. As I let negative mental talk subside, I move forward in this beautiful moment that has unlimited possibilities for all of us as the world works together in this time of renewal. Through love, I release these truths into the powerful law of mind. I am grateful, joy-filled, mindful, and so it is. Enjoy your day. Namaste. This morning's reading, written by Reverend Laura Di Donato, The 7 Aspects of God. I am the love of God, as one soul seeing. I am the peace of God that lives in all beings. I am the sacred power, like the river flows. I am the inner beauty, then outwardly it shows. I am the joys of spirit, releasing all my woes. I am the healing light that radiates like the sun. I am one with all life, through hearts of everyone. Let's take this beautiful, loving moment to relax into a comfortable place and posture. Moving our intention on our breathing, slowly and deeply, positive in and negative out. While enjoying 3 deep breaths, allowing our eyes to gently close. Releasing any old ideas that do not serve our higher purpose to make room for amazing new possibilities. Staying in this present moment, notice how we are all connected to this new day, to this life, to all living things. Knowing our breath is actually spirit moving through us. Let's breathe into that sacred place in our hearts, allowing our hearts to expand. Envision our hearts embracing all people and open to all positive manifestations. Enjoy these quiet moments of sacred stillness as we breathe, letting all limiting or negative thought dissipate. Now allowing our souls to open to the natural miracle of sunrise, daily, continuously renewing. From now on, allowing our thoughts and actions to come from our heart center, knowing whatever we contemplate on manifests in the physical world. We now focus on our higher power and listen to the guidance of spirit. Vision your new goals of today as if they are already manifest. In the words of Rumi, what you seek is seeking you. Our hope now rises like the sun to a new level of understanding as we embody the truth of who we are, loving, giving, and healthy, happy souls, full of possibilities already present within us. as we draw our attention back to our breathing and increase our ability to be fully present, taking 3 deep, loving breaths. Rooting ourselves in the constant expanding positive energy of this new Palm Sunday, and trusting that all of our needs are gratefully met in this time of renewal. Knowing we are loved, and now releasing to Spirit, we are grateful, joyful, mindful, and so it is. Enjoy your day. Namaste.
Hello and welcome. This week we join with the great Abrahamic religions around the world as we celebrate the stories that define who they are, the meaning that it gives, and how that ripples across the world. This Wednesday, April 8th at sunset, begins the Jewish festival of Passover. And Passover really is sort of the uber religion or the uber story of Judaism, because without Passover, there'd be no Hanukkah. There'd be no Purim. There'd be no stories of King David or the wisdom of Solomon. There'd be no prophets, no temple mysteries. All that would exist is a fading memory of a Semitic tribe lost to the oblivion of antiquity. And so families gather with friends from all over to tell the story, to remember when they had forgotten who they were, to remember when they were slaves and in bondage, and to remember that they are free. The story is probably more important to be told today because it's been told in good times, it's been told in bad times. It's been told in the times of the heights of the great dynasties of King David and Solomon. It was told in the death camps during the Holocaust. This year it'll probably be told online. But because there is this anxiety of what's going on, it's important that this story be told. You know, Robert Sardillo says that fear, that anxiety, is a dark companion that follows us. And that it is there to teach us how to love in a new way. And you know, this present crisis that we're in, it may be a sign of how things will be. We just don't know. The theologian and ecologist William Barry says that the cost of technical advancement is ecological disaster. But you know what he also says is that gardening is an active participation in the deepest mysteries of the universe. And so, if we try to suppress fear, and it goes inside and intensifies, we could very well forget who we are and lose our humanity. And that's an interesting word, our humanity, what it means to be human. And I've been thinking a lot about that this week, and I remember reading this story of Margaret Mead, and one of her students asked her what she felt was the defining moment of civilization. And she said a really interesting story. She says that to her, it was an event that occurred, or the evidence of it seems to have occurred about 15,000 years ago, when a certain individual broke their femur bone. Now, in the ancient world, in the primitive world, and in the animal kingdom, the femur is the biggest bone in the body. And so if it breaks, it's a death sentence. Because with a broken femur, you can't protect yourself. You can't run. You can't hide. You can't hunt. And you can't feed yourself. And so the evidence here is that someone set this bone, which means someone carried this person with the broken bone to safety. Someone set this person's bone. They fed them. They protected them. They gave them shelter. It takes roughly 6 weeks to 2 months for this bone to mend. So they spent a long time with him. This is what it means to be human, to see the other as important to you, to respond with compassion and generosity and kindness. Albert Einstein says it this way. He says, a human being is a part of a whole, by what we call a universe, a part limited in time and space. We experience ourself, our thoughts and feelings as something separate from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of our own consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us from our personal desires and to the affection for only a few persons nearest. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion and to embrace all living creatures and all human nature with expansion and beauty. Now, what I think is a really interesting thing about this idea of what it means to be human is in the Gospels, one of the names given to Jesus, Son of Man, really means the human one. And this Sunday, April 5th, is the celebration of Palm Sunday. It is the telling of the story of Jesus' entry into Jerusalem through a wild and interesting procession to be with his family and friends during the time of Passover. And you know, Jerusalem has always been an important place to be in Passover. In fact, one of the songs that's sung at the end of Seder is one that ends with "Next Year, Jerusalem." And so, if we can imagine for a moment what it must have been like to be in occupied Palestine, in the city of Jerusalem in the first century. Evidence shows us that there was probably about 125,000 people that lived in the city itself. But during the festivals, that number would swell as families and friends from around the world would stream into the city. There would be revelry, there would be partying, there would be gatherings and meals. But also, let's remember, this is an occupied city. And so, in the first century, there would have been the fear of insurrections, of violence, of riots. And so not just family and friends would come into the city, but so would the authorities. The authorities like Herod Antipas, who was the client king of the Romans. He was brutal and he was despised. And the Romans themselves, Pontius Pilate had eventually had to be recalled back to Rome for cruelty. Cruelty from the Romans, the ones who brought a horrific efficiency to their brutality. And so as they marched into the city, they would have done so with armed or uniformed soldiers, swords, shields, spears, and banners, horses, and chariots. They would have been there, and their entry, their procession into the city would have been to inspire fear and compliance through power and intimidation. But there at the other end of town was Jesus and his friends and disciples. And it says that there was songs of joy and songs of hope. There were palm fronds and animals and children singing, so much so that the authorities said to Jesus that he really needed to quiet down his crowds. But he said, I can't do that. He said, even if I was to silence them, the very stones themselves would begin to sing, because there's something new that's happening, an opportunity for us to live differently, to be together in a new way. Excuse me as I find my place here. So there's also another way of reading this story. There is the historic events that happen, and they're documented and they're real, and they do tell the story of an occupied people, and they do tell the story of slavery, and they do tell the story of bondage. They do tell the story of liberation. But there's also another way to read this as a metaphor. You know, Kabbalists and Freemasons and metaphysicians of all time will read these certain things, and they'll read them with the eye of mystery. So Jerusalem, the city of peace, from a metaphysical perspective, is that abiding place within us, that abiding place of peace that dwells near the heart. It's the emotional and nervous center of our being. And so as you have this story of abiding peace, the question then is during a time of fear and anxiety, how do we bring peace? Do we bring it with outside authority, with power, with fear, in intimidation? Do we achieve peace by hoarding, or by intimidating, or by deceiving? Or do we practice something else? You know, the great New Thought teacher Emma Curtis Hopkins said, do not be deceived. Do not be deceived by appearances. And what she's talking about there is she's talking about a reference to something that St. Paul wrote to the community of Galatia, where he says, do not be misled, because what a person sows is what they reap. And a person who sows fear and intimidation and selfishness reaps disaster. But the person who shows compassion and kindness, who shows a demonstration of unity with the Spirit and the creation of all things, to them, they reap that sense of consciousness of living in the commonwealth of God, that sense of peace. And you know, this is so much the teaching of Jesus himself. In one of the most remarkable discourses ever given, something called the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus gives an antidote to anxiety. He says, if you are anxious, contemplate the commonwealth of God. Contemplate expansion and generosity and forgiveness and compassion. And when you do, your soul is open up, and there is this place of peace. And so the question that I would ask today is this: if you were there in the first century during this time, which procession would you have been at? The one that was based on a society that was based on fear and dominance and control? A society that was based on the values of wealth and power more than kindness or goodness? Or would you have been at the other end of town, the one that was filled with songs of joy and hope? But then another question to ask you is this: in that abiding place of peace within your own heart, do you enter it by trying to protect, trying to hoard, trying to seclude, to constrict, to become small? Or do you enter it in this new way by expansion and generosity and compassion, and allowing these times to teach us in a new way? So let us open ourselves to a prayer, to a contemplation of the facts of life from the highest point of view, as Ralph Waldo Emerson says, that there is a loving and living presence that is wise and good, and that it lives in all things and it lives in us. And we open ourselves to that wisdom that guides us. We let ourselves be present to that strength that supports us. And we give thanks for the beauty that is around us, that brings us daily to a place of amazement and awe and wonder. May this week be filled with surprises and insight. And our prayer is that we are in this together. And I look forward to the time that we celebrate in our community again. Thank you so much. Enjoy this week. I love you. Namaste. Thank you once again for celebrating with us. And please like us on Facebook. And please get the message out and let them know that Hilltop Spiritual Center is now a virtual spiritual community. I invite you to visit our website, and there you'll find links to our YouTube page. And we're developing a toolbox that has guided meditations, yoga practices, music videos, soon poetry and classes. There's interesting stuff. And then also on Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. on our Zoom channel, we have a prayer circle. And please come by just to say hello, to visit, and it's lovely to pray together. And once again, I want to thank you for your continual and generous support during this time. You know, we're redefining ourselves because we have pretty much lost all the income that we get from our rental properties. But your generosity is allowing us to grow and expand. And again, if you go to the website, you'll see ways that you can hit Donor Box or PayPal, or you can send your checks to the Hilltop Center, and the address is there on the website. I wish you and your family a time of blessedness. I wish you peace and joy during this time that we are sharing together. Many, many, many blessings to you. I look forward to seeing you next week. Namaste.
Won't you take a walk with me and tell me what the world should be? Show me what it means to be a man of hope and peace. 'Cause I must know when the world seems so sad, and I must know when my feet are heavy like a stone, that I must walk steady on. My aim is you. Won't you take a walk with me? Tell me what you'd like to see. Show me what it means to be a man of faith and dreams. 'Cause I must know when the world seems so bad, and I must know when the waves come crashing down, that I must walk steady on. I breathe for you. I breathe for you. I breathe for you. 'Cause I must know when the world seems so sad, and I must know when my feet are heavy like a stone, that I must walk steady on. My aim is you. I must know when the world seems so bad, and I must know when the waves come crashing down that I must walk steady on.